Hello, and welcome to this module, What is an accrual? Accountants and others often refer to accruals, but what actually are they? The aim of this session is to demystify accruals and explain what they are and why we should care about them. So by the end of the session, you should be able to explain what an accrual is and why they're important, and also to calculate some simple accruals. Don't worry, the numbers are not hard and you probably won't even need a calculator. So what actually is an accrual? In a nutshell, an accrual is how we recognise in the accounts that we owe some money when we haven't actually received the invoice for it yet. So let's say our organisation has used up some electricity. If we've received an invoice from the electricity company, we'd put this on the system and in the accounts it would show as a creditor or trade payable. But if we haven't received the invoice, do we still owe them money? Well, yes, we do, because when we account for things, we do it using something called the accruals principle. The accruals principle says this: if you're buying something, it counts, i.e. you need to put it into the accounts when you receive or use it, not when you pay for it. Similarly, when you sell something, you recognise the revenue when you provide the goods or services, not when you get paid. Even though we've not received the bill for the electricity, we have used it, so we need to recognise both the cost and the liability, or the amount we owe. This is the accrual. Let's look at this accruals principle in a bit more detail. When do you think a business should recognise its revenue? Let's say you've ordered a sofa. When do you think the sofa company recognises the revenue on the sale of that sofa? Is it the date on which you make the order? The point at which the product or service, in this case a sofa, is delivered? The date they raise the invoice on the system? Or the date you pay over the cash? What did you guess? When we're selling something, it counts on the day when the product or service is provided. So for the company, that's the date on which they deliver the sofa to us. When we're buying something, it counts on the day we receive the goods or services. Think about Christmas or a similar event. I often say that I spend a lot of money at Christmas, but actually I incur the cost for Christmas at Christmas, but actually pay the cash over at a different time, usually about 6 months later when I finally pay off my credit card bill. OK, so let's have a go at a quick example. When does a business recognise an expense and how much do they recognise? Let's say a company receives a utility bill of £300,000 for the 3 months to the 31st of January. What expense would be recognised in the year to the 31st of December? The £300,000 relates to 3 months, so let's assume that's a cost of £100,000 per month. So pro rata for the 2 months to the year end, we would recognise an expense of £200,000 for that bill. What's the position at the 31st of December? How much do we owe? Well, we've already worked out that we've used £200,000 worth of electricity, so we owe for this, even if we haven't received the bill. It's great if we have received the bill, because when we prepare the accounts, we can prorata the actual bill. But what if we do not receive the bill before we have to prepare the accounts? Let's say the bill for the same time last year was £300,000, and we think there's been a 10% price increase. So we can guesstimate that the bill this year will be £330,000, and so pro rata, our cost and year-end liability will be £220,000. The difference is, this is a guesstimate, i.e. our best estimate of what we owe. And this is exactly what an accrual is. Why do we need it? Well, we owe money, in this case for the utility we used, so it would be wrong not to include something in the accounts. We keep it separate from other liabilities to highlight it's an estimate. There's a good chance we'll get our guess slightly wrong, but that's okay. It's better to be slightly wrong than to ignore it altogether. When the actual bill is received, the accrual will come out or be reversed, and the actual number will go in. The difference between the two will be washed out through the current period accounts. If your accounts team ever nag you about purchase orders or POs, this is probably why. POs tell us what we have ordered to help accountants keep track of what accruals they would expect to see at the month end. There may be some other terminology you come across which is worth explaining here. Accruals, which we've just been talking about, may also be referred to as accrued expenditure. We need to ask ourselves, have we incurred costs for which no claim has yet been received, and therefore we need to raise an accrual for? We may also have prepayments. Prepayments are things we've paid for, but which we have not yet received the goods or services. A common example is prepaying your car insurance. You would not generally want to pay in advance, as there's always the risk the person or company you paid won't give you what they owe you, but it does happen for commercial reasons. Deferred income is money we receive in advance that we've not yet earned. For example, if we were the insurance company and someone else had made a prepayment to us. This amount needs to be set aside in the accounts and recognised in the future when it is earned. For example, when we've provided insurance to that person. And finally, accrued income. This is income we've earned by providing goods or services for which we've not yet charged or sent an invoice. We need to accrue for the income we will receive in the future. So back to the sofa. If the sofa company delivers a sofa but have not yet raised an invoice for it, they would recognise this as accrued income. Let's recap what we've covered. We need to recognise cost or income when the goods or services are received or provided. This is the accruals principle. An accrual is a liability we need to recognise because we've incurred the cost even though we've yet to receive an invoice. So now you should be able to explain what an accrual is, why they're important, and also calculate some simple accruals. I hope you join us again soon for another module, but goodbye for now.